Hey everyone! I was commissioned to build a mid-century modern clock a while back, and a few weeks after being asked, my client sent me her own drawing of what she wanted, which was this. It immediately reminded me of the Jetsons, as well as a bunch of other sci-fi TV shows from the 1960s, so that's why I'm calling it the Jetsons clock. I had a few sets of book-matched walnut, and this first one has a swoopy kind of grain direction that seemed like it would lend itself well to the curvy arrow shape of the design. After cutting some notches on the bandsaw to give the clamps something to hold on to, I glued the two symmetrical halves together. I drew up and cut out a template on 1/4-inch plywood that would help me shape the curvy arrow, which coincidentally looks like a Star Trek emblem that has fallen and can't get up. By the way, I hope you like futuristic synthesizer music because this video is loaded with it. Next, I started making a panel out of hard maple that would become the outer part of the curvy arrow. There's got to be a better name for this than curvy arrow. Cue dorky SpongeBob transitions in 3, 2, 1.
6 hours later.
Once the maple panel was ready, I set it aside and turned my attention to the other set of book-matched walnut pieces for the sparkly circle. Yes, I'm going with sparkly circle. This is called crotch walnut because this kind of figure is created where a big branch or even a double trunk forms in the tree. The grain is crazy cool. After attaching the template to the walnut arrow, I used my helical template router bit to get the final perfect shape. Then I used a marking gauge to score a line along the edge to hopefully eliminate any tear out on the next step, which was creating a rabbit on the underside of the arrow so it will fit into the bigger maple arrow. Off camera, I used this rabbited edge to trace a line on the maple panel. This way I could cut out that section and hopefully the walnut arrow will fit into it perfectly. But first, the outer line needed to be drawn and cut and then template routed. here's where I cut the line from the rabbited edge. And it fits. Next, I attached the template for the sparkly circle onto the workpiece and then routed it to its final shape as well. So at this point, I really need to figure out a way to make the rods happen that are in the drawing, that go across the back behind these pieces. So I've come up with a jig idea that's going to involve some spacers that let me move the router over an equal distant amount each time and cut a new groove, and then all four of these dowels should lay right in them, and that'll hold the whole thing together. So hopefully my measurements are right and it all works out, and here we go. So to create this jig, I needed to make a sort of frame out of this piece of craft plywood. And that means doing a plunge cut on the table saw, which is something you should only try if you're experienced with the table saw. I used a jigsaw to complete the cut and remove the center of the plywood, and I'll be using that center piece to create the spacers I need to make the jig work. So here we are. This is hopefully going to work. Router will occupy this much space, and then these will go in here. Obviously, during each cut, they will be taped down, double stick taped down to the workpiece. But so I can make my groove, and then I'll take one of these out and put it on the other side. And then make my groove. And then take that out, move it to the other side, and boom, fits right back in like that. Capiche? I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty proud of myself for thinking up this jig. I'm not saying that I invented it, chances are someone else has already done it. But I did think of it on my own. Voila! Now I just need some balls on the end of these dowel rods. I've made a few clocks before, and I made a template for the clock movements somewhere along the way. I tend to use the inexpensive clock parts from Lowe's and Hobby Lobby. So far, I've never had a problem. I did need the dowel rods to attach to the other pieces with glue, so I taped off the places where they made contact, and then I just had to paint them black. That seems like a good song title.
Many hours later.
Magic snap transition in 3, 2, 1. You know, it just wouldn't be me if I didn't make a little goof up along the way. So, the clock movement fits in this recess, and there's a little bit of room for error around the edges, thankfully. I was thinking about the clock hands not being able to go on when I tested it earlier, but I kind of forgot about the fact that, you know, these are threads on here, and this little nut that's in this little bag here that holds the clock movement in place, well, it's not going to have anything to grab onto because it doesn't quite go through enough. So I need to make this recess just a little bit deeper. I'm going to freehand it because I've already glued this on. My template's not going to work. But I'll just set this a little deeper and freehand it, and it's the backside, so if I, you know, make a little goof up that's not pretty, it'll be fine. It doesn't show, but for the most part, it'll be easy. I just gotta go around here and then knock out the center part there. So yeah, let's do it.
"24 hours later.
Now that all the pieces were attached, I made some spacer blocks to attach to the back of the clock. The top one has a keyhole slot in it to hang the clock from. Yes, that was grammatically incorrect. But seriously, how many of you noticed? Let me know in the comments. You didn't think I was going to skip the branding footage, did you? And now it's time for the finish. I used diluted boiled linseed oil this time, and it really brings out the grain lines and figure in these walnut pieces. One of the things I love about the way this project came out is that the arrow reminds me of a spaceship, and because of that feathered grain in the sparkly circle, it kind of resembles jet exhaust. I installed the clock for the last time, and I think it looks great. Here's one more glamour shot. So, all in all, I'm very glad that I got to collaborate with the client on this project. Her drawing it and me just making it from the drawing. It turned out really well, and I'm looking forward to my next commission. Thanks, you guys. God bless. Have a good one.